I'm Mohammed Al-Minshawi, editor of Arab Insight on Takir Washington. Thank you very much for your fine presentation. Did you meet or will you meet with any American officials, and if so, who and why? And the second part...
I didn't plant that.
The magazine mentioned in last issues, which focus on the Arab world, about the role Al Jazeera played in maintaining the Arab identity, the feeling of being Arab, and it said it succeeded more than any political movement in recent history to maintain the feeling of Arab. Do you agree with this statement? And if so, was it intention of Al Jazeera to preserve the Arab identity?
Okay. My visit to Washington was to speak to you at this forum and to speak to some other think tanks as well, and to communicate with our colleagues at the Broadcasting Center. As you know, we have the biggest broadcasting center maybe between Arabic and English channel here in Washington. And also to speak to some officials and to some journalists. And yes, we have requested certain meetings, and we are in the process of arranging some meetings. Regarding Al Jazeera, we have never thought of ourselves as a political or ideological movement. We have never thought of ourselves as a reform movement. We have thought of ourselves as journalists who would like to practice the profession based on universally accepted, professional standards. And that's actually what we have been doing. However, if I interpret what you are saying, just to be clear, it was not us who demanded that position. It was not Al Jazeera that worked to be the voice of the Arabs, for example. It happened that there was vacuum, mistrust between the public and governments. And people were looking for something to symbolically represent them. Maybe they found Al Jazeera as the voice of independent opinion, independent from governments, that could really do something. So the vacuum led to the status that Al Jazeera is enjoying as the entity introduces coherent identity maybe in the Arab world. Because from Morocco to Oman, people watch the same headlines, and that may lead to certain priorities as well in their mind of understanding the region. But we have never really introduced ourselves as players within the region. We want to act only as journalists.
Thank you.
Sorry? We have asked many officials actually at the State Department and the White House, and we hope very soon to receive some answers.
I'll be blogging about it later in the week after the meetings take place. This gentleman right here, in the microphone, please.
I am Jamil Shami. I'm a political analyst and activist in the Arab American community and American Muslim community. Short comment and a question. First, the very purpose I am here is to press on your hand to say you are filling a void, a needed void, onward, forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My question is, our community here is concerned these days about something that the American administration seeking peace in the Middle East seems to be promoting, which is normalizing relations between, or asking for normalizing relations between Arab countries and Israel, while the Arab initiative is to do that after Israel abide by relinquishing what they occupied. Your information and opinion. Thank you.
Again, as I said, I'm afraid that people will concentrate on details on the issue. And people had hope, and they still have some hope, that what is happening in Washington will lead to real change. And this is a window of opportunity, and as I said, it will not continue forever because, delivery is important on these issues. So far, what we are seeing, there is no, I would say a lot of people and analysts, at least who appear on Al Jazeera, would argue that they don't see very much of change. What we see is magnificent discourse, but without action. And we are repeating maybe same stories that we have been living through during the last 30 or 40 years regarding the peace process and settlements, regarding the normalization of relationship with Israel, regarding a lot of issues. And in my opinion, eventually these are details that will never materialize in something concrete that might change the reality.
Very back, right here in the middle, this gentleman.
My name is Eddie Aichis. I wanted to know what the reaction has been to your reporting on Iran and whether there's any kind of plans to have Al Jazeera Farsi service.
Oh, interesting.
No, actually, first of all, we did report elections in Iran as many other networks did for both Arabic and English news.
Were you put under the same restrictions that?
And eventually, immediately after the elections finished that same day, our reporters were asked to leave from Tehran. And of course, we continue to report through our bureau, which has Iranians working in Tehran. Unfortunately, I would say the story, we still face restrictions on covering the story on Tehran. As you know, images were, during especially the first few days, censored, and we were not allowed to film. And that created a bit of a problem. And we depended, like many others, on YouTube and on Twitter, of covering images and the stories that emerged. However, we had also excellent network of analysts within Iran from various groups appearing on Al Jazeera and covering the story and telling us information that we may not be able to film. That is regarding the issue of Iran. Are we going to have a version channel or not? In principle, Al Jazeera actually is brainstorming the idea of expansion in general. I mean, we have Al Jazeera English now, but we would like in the future maybe to concentrate on certain other languages and mainly in the region. But I cannot tell you that we have a definite decision on that issue.
This gentleman here, and we'll go right here.
My name is Tamam Al-Barazi from Al-Watan Al-Arabi magazine. I wonder first how, I follow the Al Jazeera Arabic very closely. I think you are very biased in reporting about when it comes to Iran and Syria and Hezbollah. I mean, you are pro them. I mean, you don't have even a second opinion allowed to appear on these issues. Most of the time, you are with the Syrian regime.
Well, let's get to the question.
Second, why? I mean, why this bias? Why you take all over the world two opinion except when it comes to these three issues? Hezbollah, Lebanon, and Syria. Secondly, how can you sustain yourself if your advertisement is zero? You have only the Qatari petrol and Qatari gas advertising. How can you sustain yourself?
Interesting questions.
Number one, the issue of Iran, I, of course, disagree with you. I mean, that is not true at all, entirely. I mean, we have taken very clear coverage on the issue of Iran, whereby the opinion and the other opinion, again, was monitored by minute. We have a quality assurance. If you would like to say that we are biased compared with other networks that cover the story of Iran, it's up to you. But when it comes to our standards, when we had conservatives, we have to balance them with reformists at the same time, on the same news bulletin. 5 minutes, 5 minutes. That is the standard that we followed. Unfortunately, other networks didn't do that. Some people did rally. They have taken, again, on the issue of Iran, I have seen some kind of coverage in the Western media where people have, were just supporting one way of thinking. We cannot afford to do so. That will be a departure from our norm. Regardless of what we think about the conservatives, for example, they have the choice, they have the opportunity to appear on the screen. Our relationship with Iran was never the most smooth relationship between a TV station and our bureau was closed twice in Iran. The first time our bureau was closed because we did report about the only coverage of the Arab minority or the people, the Iranians from Arab origin in the southern and Al-Ahwaz region was done by Al Jazeera. 12 reports that led to a law by the parliament to close our bureau and a huge protest against Al Jazeera. Then the second time it happened when we did start reporting as well about certain kind of conflicts within the Iranian society. And again, our bureau was closed in 1996 for 1 year, So our relationship with the Iranian government was not the most smooth, but that did not lead us to take a stance against the Iranian government pro-Musawi. We did balance our coverage between Musawi and Ahmadinejad. Some people would judge us because they wanted us to take the same stance like many other networks, whereby, okay, we are pro-Musawi reformists. That is not the way that we do things. When it comes to other issues like Syria. Our relationship with Syria has never been the smoothest. And our bureau many times was closed as well. We were amongst few TV stations that gave platform to opposition leaders inside Syria and outside Syria. Just 2 weeks ago, when the head of Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Bayanouni, who's classified as the arch enemy of the regime in Syria, appeared on the screen for 1 hour. And many other leaders within the Syrian community.
My friend,
not true.
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry.
I don't imagine any leader from the Syrian opposition or any arrest within Syria or any human abuse that happened in Syria that was not covered by Al Jazeera. You know, but again, as I said, we do not play a role of being the campaigners for certain opposition groups in order to wage war against the government. That's not our position. That is what they can do, and we will report about them. But they cannot ask us to be the campaigners against this regime or that.